So it's a complete honor to be here. It was interesting. We were here yesterday hanging out with Suck a little bit and seeing some of the photos. And I always get a kick out of this one right here because out of all of the pictures that he's taken, and he's taken a lot, this was the modeling picture. And he always kind of had this thing where he was going to be the next Marcus Schenkenberg. And we started calling him Suck Schenkenberg. He would say, Craig, there's a billion people in China. It's a huge market. The world's ready for the biggest Asian supermodel, and I would say, but Suck, you're Korean. Doesn't matter, dude. The casting directors don't know the difference. So we put something together, a few of his friends in LA, and I'm just gonna read it because there's no way I can get through this any other way. Suck wasn't just one of my closest friends. He was my brother. We first met our freshman year at the University of Washington, nearly 25 years ago. And as I look back on these last 2 decades, he was part of every major event of my adult life. He stood next to me when I married my beautiful wife, Stephanie. He was there for the birth of my son, Grayson. I remember Suck clearly peeling open the eyes of my infant son so that he could see exactly who his Uncle Suck was. He made sure that every birthday, graduation, career promotion, or any other special occasion was marked by a first-class celebration at one of the venues. He encouraged me to go back and finish grad school, pushing me, a 27-year-old single male living in Hollywood, to not hang out with him so much at night and go study. Not an easy sell. He was one of the first people that I would call when something happened in my life. And I think it was because he was always so proud of me. For a guy who was enormously successful in a profession as exciting and glitzy and glamorous as his, he was 100% invested in me and so proud of what I was doing in my life. I was happy, and that made him happy. You should all know that although the last 20 years of his life were spent in Los Angeles, his first home was never far from his heart. Most days, if he wasn't watching one of his hometown teams play Seahawk football or pretty much Husky anything, he'd be wearing the hat, the beanie, the shirt, just to make sure everyone knew exactly where he was from. He truly loved being from here. It's hard to articulate what Suck meant to his adopted second home of Los Angeles and all the lives that he affected down there, but I'd like to at least try and give you a small sense here today. Most of you probably remember him as an outgoing, ambitious kid growing up in Federal Way or going to the University of Washington, but in LA, he kind of became a big deal. There were nearly 1,000 people in attendance on last Wednesday night, at his memorial service. To get that many people to show up for anything in LA is kind of a miracle. In attendance that night, a self-made musician from a difficult background spoke emotionally about how Suck went out of his way to help him in the early days, and now, 15 years later, is able to afford a private school education for his child. A former restroom attendant who worked for Suck spoke of his kindness and generosity and the effect that he had on her life. A dear friend of his, since their 20s, when they were still basically kids, who now has children of her own, said to me, to my kids, he will always be Uncle Suck. 2 hours into the memorial, there were still dozens of folks who wanted to speak. So many stories, too many to get through, all which cemented one thing that we already knew about Suck, that he cared about each and every person in that room. That's why we were all there that night, and that's why we're all here today. He never took anyone for granted. He appreciated us all as individuals, and the impact of that will last a lifetime. I was asked by a couple of his other friends, his dearest friends, Aaron Soon, who's here today, and Patrick Van Horn, who unfortunately couldn't be here, if I would read something on their behalf. So first, this is from Aaron. My name is Aaron Swin, and Suck was my best friend. We met in 2001, and ever since we were inseparable. He became the brother that I never had, and although he was older symbolically, I'm not sure if I was the older one, or if he was, or maybe we just looked up to each other. He was my go-to person to grab a bite or see a movie. I consider myself truly blessed to have seen the Texas Chainsaw Massacre and The Grudge with him. As you all know, he does not like horror movies. When he would kick the chair in front of him, scream, or throw popcorn in the air, he would say it was his quick reflexes from all the martial arts training. If you were lucky enough to see Suck break out in awesome spin kicks, crescent kicks, or a variety of various moves from all the years of Taekwondo, he truly looked badass. Oddly enough, the only thing that I'd ever seen him kick were walls, kitchen appliances, and VIP ropes. But he never touched a soul. Even if I got into a confrontation, I would ask him, "Where the heck were you?" And he would reply, "Stretching, dude." Suck was not a fighter. He was the first person to try to defuse a situation. He never got angry. He was the best negotiator I've ever seen. He loved kids and was looking forward to having his own. He would force me to help him with his babysitting duties when he had his hands full. One time he left me with 2 girls, Isabella and Victoria, while he cared for a third, Alexandra. I phoned him 20 minutes later and said, "They're going nuts. How do I sedate them?" And he just would laugh and come to my rescue. His life was cut too short to have his own children, but his dogs were his kids. He would spend more on dog treats and toys than he would on his own food and clothes. He called himself the Korean dog whisperer. And I would reply, "No, you're the Korean dog feeder." I would ask him why he was still working in nightclubs, and although he didn't reply with a concrete answer, it just dawned on me. He liked being around all of his friends, to have a place to see and talk to everyone on a weekly basis. And he loved to catch up with old friends and make new ones. And then this one's from Patrick Van Horn, who couldn't be here today. Suck and I were born on the same day, St. Patrick's Day, March 17th. When I first met him, I knew we'd be close friends. When we were young adults, we found each other a respite for unwanted attention we both had bestowed upon us. For myself, it was from being in a popular movie. For Suck, it was his job as a top club promoter. And like 2 old men, we loved to hold up in his apartment, shutting out the world, knowing that all that mattered was which one of us would win the next match in a video game. What I loved most about Suck was that he was a sensitive soul, yet he was a man's man. I could argue with him about sports, but also talk to him about my worries and problems. Suck was many things to many people, part Bruce Lee, part Kenny G, a little James Bond, and a hint of Korean dog whisperer. It really didn't matter what you saw in him. If you knew him, you loved him. In a town like Los Angeles, where everyone kind of comes from someplace else, whenever I saw him, it was like home. So with the heaviest of hearts from not only myself and Aaron, my wife, everyone that knew him in Los Angeles, our deepest condolences to his family, his mother Sue, his brother Tech. You'll forever be missed, my friend. We love you, Suck.